everyone, welcome back to Castle Goring, chatting with Lady C. Hello.
Hello,
Georgie.
Leo. Long time no see.
Yeah, very long.
Gosh,
Almost a week.
Where were you, stranger?
On Bahamas, in the garden. And you?
Oh, I'm well, thank you.
Yes.
I'm well, yeah. So, what's up, Leo?
So we have a few interesting questions, topics. So the first question and the topic, I will read it now for you. So, would you be kind enough as to speak about any issues you have had in the past in relation to anxiety, depression, and motivation? And do you feel medication such as benzodiazepines? Yeah. Which doctors throw at patients in order to get rid of us is a solution, or do you think alternative methods such as cognitive behavioral therapy is better? As a woman who has overcome a lot in your lifetime, I think your insight will be invaluable for helping young people like myself to become more self-confident and proactive.
Oh, that's a very interesting question, actually.
Yes.
Well, yes, I do speak from a certain amount of experience because, of course, as everybody who's familiar with my story knows, my youth was hardly a picnic. And fortunately, what I suffered from, they couldn't throw stimulants, depressants, all of those drugs at. So I had to just rub along, feeling it all which is good. And I actually do not think that, I think if you are bipolar and you have a chemical imbalance, as I said to a friend of mine who is bipolar, darling, there's no point in suffering. Just take the tablets and be healthy. So that's one thing. A chemical imbalance is something. But if you suffer from depression or anxiety, well, clinical depression, of course, is chemical. But most of what we regard as depression is not chemical. It is people who are dissatisfied with their lot, who have a lot to work through, etc. I'm a great believer in good therapy. It worked for me, and I think it works for anybody who is fortunate enough to get a good therapist. I think in a situation like that, you need to find yourself a good therapist. And there are many therapists who are not good. My therapist actually said to me, he said, the caring professions proliferate with psychopaths, sociopaths, and sadists. He said, and people need to be aware of this. If you have a therapist that is not going to help you to be better and to embrace health and to embrace life and to get over whatever your issues have been, that's not a good therapist, and you must dump them and find yourself a good therapist. I was very lucky. Basil Panzer was my therapist, and he was the most wonderful therapist that God put on this earth. I cannot sing his praises highly enough. His point was that if you want to be healthy, the therapist will help to make you healthy. If, of course, you want to enjoy your misery, or if you have a serious personality disorder, that's something else again. But if you are suffering from depression, anxiety, any of those life-created conditions that really basically mean you are carrying around an unbearable amount of pain, and you need somebody who is going to assist you in relieving yourself of the load, good cognitive therapy, or its approximate, is the best way forward. No drugs. If if you can do it with, you should be able to do it without drugs. If you can't do it without drugs and you have a chemical problem, that's something else. But if it's just the pain of life, feel it. If you don't feel it, you're never going to be able to feel happiness. You're never going to be able to actually be happy, be fulfilled. Life is not only about pleasure. Pain has its purpose, and it's telling you something's wrong and you need to make it right. Listen to your pain. Work with it to be relieved of it and to help yourself to become the person you can be.
How I look. So,
Awful.
thank you.
Awful. You're only going to get 6 proposals of marriage today.
Per day or per
Today.
Today.
Because you're not looking your best.
Okay.
So go
yes,
on.
I know. Thank you. Thank you for support.
Well, you know, I mean, what can I say? A girl needs to speak the truth. You'll be down to 6 proposals today. Go
Okay,
on.
a bit less this week. So last time we mentioned Louis XV and Louis XVI.
Yes.
So there was a question after this topic. So can you offer your thoughts on the French Revolution?
Mm-hmm.
And are you a monarchist in the political sense of the word?
Oh. I'm rather inclined to agree with the president of China, who says it's a little bit too early to see what the effects of the French Revolution really were. I think history teaches us one really invaluable lesson if we care to listen to it. Having lived in France on and off for 14 years, I have to say that I think that the French Revolution, despite them trying to trumpet it as a positive, has actually been a very mixed bag. The French Revolution was, of course, the first of the great revolutions. It was hijacked by the middle class. The lawyers hijacked it. In 1789, on the tennis court, pretty much all of the objectives that we think were fought for afterwards had been achieved, which were basically the surrender of the privileges of the nobility and the church. Thereafter, it was a power struggle between the middle-class lawyers, who were really the proponents of the French Revolution, and one group of them, another group of them, did they want a constitutional monarchy? Did they want a republic? Who was going to be in charge? Who was going to have the power? And it really was a power grab that was dressed up as something else. I think Louis XVI made a grave mistake. If you read the memoirs of the Princesse de Lamballe, who was the Duc de Penthièvre's daughter-in-law, the Duc de Penthièvre was Louis XIV's grandson, and his wife, the Princesse de Lamballe, was a member of the Savoyard royal family. And she was a great friend of Marie Antoinette, and she was also extremely intelligent, and she was very politically astute. And she thought that Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette made a very grave mistake, because they were more inclined to try to regain absolute power, when she thought that they should be heading down the British route and having a constitutional monarchy. I agree with her. Having said that, there's some doubt whether a constitutional monarchy ultimately would have worked, because as happened in Brazil in the 1880s, when you have a monarch, and he was a very successful monarch, the Emperor of Brazil, then you have politicians who decide, oh, this is a really glorious pie, let's have our piece of it. That is too tempting for politicians. And I've come to the conclusion, I never used to be pro-monarchy, anti-monarchy, or anything when I was younger. If anything, I would say I was neutral, verging on possibly republicanism. Even though I mixed in a royal world and all the rest of it, I was, because I was partly educated in America and I was influenced by writers like Thoreau and Tocqueville, etc., etc., I think I had a very neutral in terms of monarchy, and certainly I would not have said that I was an autocratic monarchist. Well, time has taught me that the most effective form of government in a progressive society is a constitutional monarch. But they have to function within the constitution, and they have to be pretty much ceremonial with neutralizing powers. For instance, the British monarchy is very much like that. Rather late in life, I think partly because I've become more politically aware as I've got older, and because of the books I've written and what I've read in history, I think the most effective form of government in a progressive society is constitutional monarchy. But constitutional monarchy is where the monarch has limited powers. Not only does a monarch represent all of the people, even the people who do not support the monarch represents all of the people. This does not happen in a republic. In a republic, the president at any given time is representing the people of his party. There's no pretense about it, and if there is, it's delusional. That's one reason. A practical reason is that every time you have a president, and you have a president for a limited duration, hopefully, he then becomes an ex-president, and you have to support him, his children, his grandchildren, all of whom need to be given Secret Service agents, security, pensions, etc. So Republican representation at the top is far more expensive than monarchy. You have one royal family, they last forever. You have to support one set of people with, say, the ex-French presidents of France or America. You have to support endless sets of former incumbents, with the result that the French and the American presidencies are tremendously much more expensive to maintain than the British monarchy. That's a practical reason. But even putting that aside, constitutional monarchy works very well because most constitutional monarchs want to hand on to their children. Because they want to hand on to their children, they know they have to behave themselves. So they are not only limited constitutionally, they are limited in terms of their desire to continue in the role and for their family to continue in the role. So it's a very self-regulating form of government. Having said all of that, Dubai is a prime example of the results of absolute monarchy. 30 years ago, Dubai city did not exist as it does now. That is the vision of Sheikh Mohammed. There is no way around it. Had it not been an absolute monarchy, you would not have had what has been achieved. Versailles, St. Petersburg, the vision of Peter the Great. These were all absolute monarchs who had an absolute vision and the power to absolutely effect it, and they did. Well, I would prefer to do without some of the results that fortunately we have, because we're lucky. We have the benefit of all the corpses that were sacrificed to create great cities like St. Petersburg and great places like Versailles. And we have the benefit of the labor of the people without the downside. I would not want to live as a citizen in a country where such things are possible. I think I prefer to live in a constitutional monarchy. And I certainly wouldn't want to live in America. I went to school in America partly. I lived there for the first 7 years of my adult life. America is increasingly ungovernable and has been since Watergate. And it's going to continue to be increasingly ungovernable. Anybody who has studied history can see the parallels between the ancient Roman Republic and America. America is riding for a huge fall. China, thank you, I'd prefer not to live there either. Because that's an absolutist state. They don't call themselves a monarchy, but they are actually they elect emperors who call themselves presidents and rule for the length of time that they are in power. And I'd much rather not be a member of a totalitarian state.
Like North Korea.
That's even worse.
They have emperor.
That's
they have
worse.
Royal family as well.
Well, yes, but they don't call themselves that.
Royals. They have different titles. Yeah. Okay, thank you. And our next question, it's very, very popular topic now.
Yes.
It's about your book, upcoming
Which book?
About the Prince Harry and Meghan. We've seen in the news all this and about
oh, you mean Harry and Meghan? No, sorry, Meghan and Harry, the real story.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, your upcoming book will be published on 25th of June.
Yes.
And now the Meghan is pushing their book to be published before yours.
Yes.
So do you think Meghan had said that she wants her book brought forward, knowing that your release, and now when your release date has been announced as 2 months before her book? And do you think this is a coincidence or she's worried?
That's an interesting question. I suppose I'm going to be forced to answer the question because people won't
it's very
answer to it. Yeah, so I'd much rather not to have to address it at all at this point. But, okay, so I'll be as gracious as I possibly can be and answer it. Okay?
Yes.
Gosh.
I mean, everyone is interested about this now. It's all over the news, social media. You're everywhere.
Yes.
So.
Well, you know, Freud said there's no such thing as a coincidence.
Yes.
And I think we can give old Siggy the benefit of the doubt here.
Yes.
But I have been told that, yes, she's desperate to get her book out earlier than mine, or at least to coincide more or less with mine, because, of course, their book is a hagiography. It is their version of the truth. It's not the truth, it's their version of the truth, which is fine if you want to read rubbish. The fact of the matter is, Meghan and Harry's book, which we can safely say is basically Meghan's book. It's written by her friend, her good friend Marcus Anderson's ex-boyfriend Omid Scobie, who is Goebbels, her minister of propaganda, and has been beating the drum for Meghan all along, and what a wonderful person she is, which is fair dues if that's what they want to do. Yeah. I think I have the reason I suspect that the reason why she wants the book brought out earlier than was announced was she doesn't want to give me a clear run. She's never seen what's in my book.
But they tried to influence your book.
Yes, they did. Yeah. Yes, they did. They were getting mutual friends to ring me up to influence the narrative, to feed me stuff. And some of it I was receptive to, some of it I was not. There was one thing that happened that everybody knows I have a terrible temper when I get going. And I went absolutely ballistic over something, an approach that was made to me and I will not go into it, it's in the book, but it was absolutely beyond belief. And I was outraged Diana had tried to influence the narrative as well and had failed ultimately. And it was interesting to see that one generation later, nothing's changed. They've not learned any lessons. They still think that people who actually are independent and think for themselves are going to fall for a version that is truly incredible. And you would have to have an IQ of maybe 27, definitely no more than 32, to actually buy the lie. Having said that, there is a lot in the book that is positive. I present a completely balanced picture. I leave no stone unturned to be either positive or truthful. But ultimately actions speak louder than words. Meghan's anxiety to bring the publication date of her book forward to swamp mine is an interesting phenomenon. It tells me that she's very nervous of what I have to say. They will know that that when they try to force my narrative into a direction that I did not respond positively to, that my reaction was extremely adverse. I do not pretend that I was anything but absolutely gobsmacked that anybody would have thought that I was going to fall for, the fact that pigs fly and cows moo 6,000 feet under the ocean, like I was born yesterday and stupid as well. And I think they're most likely very nervous that would have colored my observations and that some version of it is in the book. Well, as the Jamaican people say, if you spit in the sky, it will fall in your eye.
Ah, yes.
And I will only say that if they have a guilty conscience over what happened and the way that they were being so clever that they were just going to manipulate me into thinking that pigs fly, well, I'm sorry. They know I was not manipulated, and if they're nervous, well, good luck to them for being nervous. They will have to wait and see how, if I refer to it at all in the book, and if I do, how I handle it. And they can only they have themselves and no one else to blame for having tried to foist such nonsense upon me. I mean, anybody who knows me for more than 2 seconds, or doesn't even need to know me, has observed me for more than 5 minutes, can see that I'm not exactly stupid, and I'm no weakling either, and that I'm not somebody who's easily maneuvered into thinking that black is white and pink is green. I'm sorry, black is black and pink is pink. And so I suspect that's why she's nervous. And if she's nervous because of that, a guilty conscience, my dear, will get you to do really stupid things. But if you've earned it, who am I to deprive you of it? Having said that, they have earned much that is positive, and I think they should comfort themselves with the fact that I am always true and always fair, and just as how I was true and fair to his mother. And if you read what I've written, as opposed to the lies that have been written about what I have written, I was always true and fair to and about Diana. And I am true and fair where they are concerned as well. Where there is credit, it is given. I believe in what Jesus said: render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, and unto God that which is God's. And if the Sussexes have any confusion about what goes to Caesar and what goes to God, that's their problem, not mine. And beyond that, all I can say is good luck to them. I wish them well. I certainly, being a Jamaican, would hope that at some point she would start to embrace and understand the tremendous privilege and the tremendous hope that people all over the world have vested in her. I think.
And are you scared that they will take you to the court?
Am I scared that who will take me to court?
Meghan.
Meghan and Harry?
Yes.
Bring it on is all I can say. If they were dumb enough to do something like that, I can tell you something. They would find that I am not Thomas Markle. I'm not somebody who mucks around. And I'm pretty sure that if they don't know that, they will discover it if they try to tamper with me. Also, I have a great deal of experience with litigation. I am one of the most successful litigants in terms of defamation and matters of that kind in this country. If you mention the name Lady Colin Campbell in Fleet Street to anybody in any legal department that has any competency, they quiver and quake. I have learnt that because I was genuinely victimized when I was younger. So what is interesting in all of this is, as soon as Meghan's friends, and we can be pretty sure, as was with Diana, when the press says friends of, what they mean is you can just scratch out friends, because you're really speaking about the person. And, all these plants by friends of Meghan say this, friends of Harry say that, friends of Meghan say. It's their American PR people planting stories about them to drive the narrative. And my book shows that why they're doing this and how they're doing this, because I've had access to some of these people, so I know what they're doing and why they're doing it. Well, of course, last night I was informed that their people in America have got people to post stuff on the internet about me, which they know to be lies.
They try to discredit
you. They've already started to try to discredit me. Well, this is not a new phenomenon. This is how all propagandists work. Diana tried it and failed. I sued every single newspaper company, large newspaper company, national newspaper company in this country, and won hands down. There should be no mistake about the fact that I know what I'm doing, I've done it before, and I'll do it again if necessary. I am now monitoring the situation because I have been advised that they have their people posting lies about me on the internet, which is actually really at this point rather pathetic, because they don't know the contents of my book. They know what they tried to influence me with. Some of it was positive, some of it I did not react to very welcomingly, let's put it that way. It's ludicrous, some of the things that they're posting about me. That my ex-husband, the only person who anybody has ever, with any merit, been able to find in the 70 years I've been on this earth, to say anything adverse about me, is a man who, by his own admission, to Swepstone Walsh, Associated Newspapers solicitors, in a 1975 statement that he gave, is an acknowledged wife beater, who acknowledged that he beat me to smashed up the right side of my face in London in May 1974, and then beat me so badly that I was hospitalized in September 1974 in Lenox Hill Hospital in New York. Now, he's on record having admitted this to one of the most respectable firms of solicitors in the country. This is somebody they're trying to use to discredit me, somebody who I left because I was not prepared to be his punching bag, and because he married me for my father's money and I found out about it, which obviously I was going to do at some point. I mean, you'd have to be really dumb to not find out a little detail like that. That's who they're using to discredit me. A man who not only did that and has admitted it in a sworn legal statement, but who actually also sold a parcel of lies about my upbringing with the collusion of his brother, the late Duke of Argyll, to pay off his bill in the Priory, the drying out centre, which predated me even knowing him. And when I refused to pay the bill, and his brother also wanted me to get my father to pay Manufacturers Hanover Trust for the non-payment of a loan to Manufacturers Hanover Trust, which would have preserved him from having to sell 79 Park Walk. I refused to do. Their way of remedying the situation, because they knew I was going to leave him, because I was doing it nicely, but decently, but definitely, was to sell a parcel of lies about my upbringing to the Sunday People in January 1975. And then he has thereafter been trying to say that he only discovered about my upbringing by when he read it in the newspapers. But the very first words of the story are, "Last night Lord Colin Campbell disclosed." So, I mean, it's ludicrous. Do Meghan's people really think that it is going to assist her book if she gets her people to post lies about me that were written by a self-confessed wife beater who also was ignoble enough to sell lies about his wife and has thereafter been lying about what he did? I still have the contract that he signed with the Sunday People. So, they're not mucking around with somebody who's a fluff or, some spacey creature. Is this the sort of low-down, dirty, nasty tactic that humanitarians and feminists and politically aware people like Meghan and Harry and their team, including Sunshine Sachs, is this the sort of conduct to which people like that stoop? I'm sorry, I don't stoop to conduct like that. I speak the truth. And you hang yourself or you survive on the truth. I speak the truth, and I am not going to allow them to continue to do this and get away with it without some consequence. So, bring it on. Whatever it is, bring it on. Because Ken Sunshine is well known to be tougher than old boots. Meghan is well known to be tougher than 10 pairs of old boots, to such an extent that her father-in-law nicknamed her Tungsten. Well, don't take my word for it. I'm not saying how tough I am. Ask any legal manager in any legal department in this country who has come across me, and you will see that maybe you should stop trying to use lies against me. If you can use the truth, go right ahead and do it. There's no truth that you can use that exists that could be used to undermine me. Anything that has ever been written about me that is detrimental is a lie. Whether it is the lies that have been told about some of the books I've written, for instance, that I said that, I quote the Duke of Windsor in my biography of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, explaining why he and the Duchess of Windsor called Queen Elizabeth the Queen Mother Cookie. And the tacky, lying journalists and subhuman creatures have just ignored the fact that this is what the Duke of Windsor says, and that's what I say in my book, and have just put the whole idea into my head as if I had said it. The problem is popping your idea into my head doesn't actually get it out of my tongue or pen. If people wish to examine what has been said, they will discover that not one detractor of mine has ever been able to come up with any ammunition to use against me, because I don't talk the talk, I do the action.
Good.
So that's it.
And do you think they will manage to publish their book before you?
Well, even if they bring it forward,
It needs to be
I
very
don't
quick.
see that. I don't see, knowing how books are produced, that it's going to be possible to do it quite as quickly as she would like or they would like. But I also think, she's worrying needlessly, because I have always stood up for what I am, and I've never sought to hide behind a lie. And I would recommend that other people take a leaf out of my book and do the same. I've never claimed to be a great authoress or a great humanitarian or a great anything. I've had people say nice things about me, but I've always kept my head firmly screwed on and my feet firmly on the ground. I think other Leos could profit from my example.
Hopefully. Yeah. Good.
That I think there's no need, just as how there was no need with Diana,
Yes.
for people to tell lies about me to try to knock me out of the running, and he didn't knock me out of the running. When it's all over said and done with, enough people know the truth, that all the lies are going to only dupe the idiots who are dupable. Lynn Barber in the Sunday Times, and Lynn Barber is one of the most eminent journalists in the country. You wouldn't know that, of course, you're not British, but she is. Lynn Barber in the Sunday Times was absolutely clear about the fact that I, not Morton, am the person who revealed everything that there was of any consequence to be revealed about Diana. And other journalists know it. Even yesterday in the Express, Virginia Blackburn said, and I quote, she said, not that the publicity shy couple were ever out of it, of course. No, let me stop. She says, you think you're suffering in lockdown? Spare a thought for a young couple with a 1-year-old child. They only have an $18 million mansion to shelter in, and worse still, what with restrictions on current travel, they are not able to use the private jet with which their host whisked them from Canada to an area of prime Californian real estate. Yup! Harry and Meghan are back in the news. Not that the publicity-shy couple were ever out of it, of course, but there has been a double whammy in the past couple of days. The first is that Meghan wants the book about their new life, with which they cooperated, to be brought forward so everyone can see she is not a control freak, but a darling. Then, in brackets, for anyone who is not entirely convinced of that, there's also an alternative book in the pipeline about the two of them by Lady Colin Campbell, who, wait for it, who broke the real story about the marriage of Harry's parents well before Diana, her true story, by Andrew Morton, came out. And the second is that well-placed sources report that Harry is feeling rudderless with no structure to his life. Well, Virginia Blackburn is but one of the many journalists who can read. It helps for a journalist to be able to read. And it might be helpful for Meghan and Harry and their people in America to understand that it helps when people know how to read, and it helps when writers know how to read, and journalists know how to read, and people who are posting lies on blogs know how to read. Because anybody who knows how to read knows that they can say all the nasty things they want about me and about my work. I am the very first person who gave the world any insight into what was going on in Diana and Charles's marriage. And although I will not be the first person to give an insight into what is going on in Harry and Meghan's marriage, because people all over the world have some insight and some opinion, I'm certainly the first author who will actually have got down in black and white the real story of what Harry and Meghan are about. And if Harry and Meghan don't like that, what can I tell you? Change your behavior.
Good. So the book will be on pre-order on
Yes.
Amazon, yeah.
The book is on pre-order. It's now on pre-order on Amazon.
Okay.
And it would be very nice if Harry and Meghan's people would stop telling lies about me and stop attacking me, so that I don't have to defend myself. But if I have to defend myself, I will with the truth. So that's it. I look forward to the book coming out. I look forward to having ministries of propaganda stopping interfering with me. You know, it's not going to work with me. It never did the last time around. It's not going to do it this time. So just back off. It would be my recommendation to them. And let the chips fall where they may. You know, people have a nose for the truth. And this is not Nazi Germany in the 1930s. Everybody's been through the whole thing of Goebbels telling lies, and the bigger the lie, the more believable it is. You know, we're really far too educated and sophisticated to fall for all these really rather ridiculous ploys of what in America they call media management, and what firms like Sunshine Sachs do. I mean, Sunshine Sachs, funnily enough, I know people who have employed Sunshine Sachs to represent them. And they've done a very good job of getting virtual unknowns onto the social map in New York, and getting people invited to the Met Gala, that sort of thing. Well, you know, that's America. America is not England. America is not the world. I know a lot of Americans don't understand that America isn't the world, but I'm here to tell you, America isn't the world. And Sunshine Sachs is not an Ubermensch. It is an ordinary PR company that may be very good at manipulating the anodyne press in North America, but it's not actually up to scratch with what goes on in the United Kingdom. It has no understanding of how the press works in this country. If it had any understanding of how the press works in this country, the debacle would not have taken place the way it has taken place. And I wish all of them very well, but not at my expense. Thank you very much.
And do you plan to sue them if you need?
In America,
yes,
to sue, you have to prove malice. I can prove malice very easily. They can't prove malice against me because I've not been malicious. I have been extremely fair and even-handed. And anybody who's read any of my works will see they are not written for today. They're written for 50 years hence. They're written for people who 50 years from now read a book and say, wow, she really knew what she was talking about. Everything she said turned out to be true and fair, which is what happens when people read my Diana biographies. They know everything I said is true and fair. So, will I sue if I need to? You bet your bottom dollar I will. And I would hope, though, that they will understand that the world is big enough for some people to speak the truth. And I leave it at that.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Leo.
No, thank you. It's very interesting.
You are rather too interesting for my taste, quite frankly. I've been through this once before, and I found it extremely unpleasant. If I have to go through it again, I'm sure I won't find it pleasant, but you know, practice makes perfect, and I'll be a lot less upset. And also this time, I'm dealing with a completely different kettle of fish, because the last time I had the British press against me. This time I don't. I don't have the British press against me. And I'm not in the slightest bit fazed by Sunshine Sachs and all of those operators. I mean, give me a break, you know. Thank you very much, Leo.
You're welcome. Thank you.
My pleasure.